Most people think luxury is about expensive cars, private jets, and mansions, but the truth is far darker and far more uncomfortable than that. Because the biggest luxury on earth is something poor people never even realize they're missing. And once you understand this, you'll never look at rich people the same way again. Because while the world is busy chasing brands and money, the elite are quietly buying something else that controls everything, including you, and here's the secret they never teach you. The first luxury fact is that real wealth is invisible by design. Because the richest people in the world don't want attention. They want control, and attention is something only the poor are trained to crave. Which is why flashy lifestyles are mostly owned by people who are still trying to prove they made it, while the real elite hide behind silence, privacy, and boring routines that look unimpressive from the outside but generate power in the background every single day. This is why you see influencers screaming about success while billionaires rarely speak at all. Because noise is cheap and silence is expensive, and silence allows decisions to be made without interference, judgment, or pressure, which is a luxury most people will never experience because their lives are constantly exposed, discussed, compared, and judged. The second secret luxury fact is that rich people buy time, not things, because things break, lose value, and attract attention. But time compounds forever, which is why the elite pay absurd amounts of money to avoid waiting, avoid stress, avoid small decisions, and avoid distractions that drain mental energy, while poor people are forced to trade their time for survival and then are blamed for being tired, unmotivated, or lazy. This is why luxury services exist, not to show off, but to remove friction from life. Because every minute saved is a minute redirected towards strategy, health, or influence, and once you understand this, you realize that a private jet isn't about comfort, it's about controlling schedules, avoiding chaos, and staying mentally sharp while everyone else is exhausted from lines, delays, and crowds. The third luxury fact is that rich people are obsessed with information asymmetry, meaning they know things earlier than everyone else, because being early is more powerful than being rich. And the elite invest heavily in private networks, advisors, closed-door meetings, and quiet conversations where real decisions are made long before the public ever hears about them. Which is why by the time news reaches the masses, the money has already been made, the assets already bought, and the opportunities already locked away. This is also why poor people rely on free information, trending advice, and public motivation, not realizing that anything available to everyone is already too late to change their position. While the rich pay for access, not education, because access changes outcomes faster than knowledge ever will. Another uncomfortable luxury truth is that rich people design their environment to win by default, while poor people rely on willpower, which always fails. Because willpower gets tired, distracted, and emotional, but environments silently shape behavior without effort. Which is why the elite carefully control what they see, who they interact with, what information enters their mind, and how their days are structured, while most people live in reactive environments that drain focus, promote bad habits, and reward instant gratification. This is why luxury homes are quiet, minimal, and isolated, not because of aesthetics, but because peace is a weapon in a world designed to keep you overstimulated, anxious, and reactive. And the calmer your environment, the clearer your decisions become. The next luxury fact is that rich people understand leverage at a level most people never will. Because they don't work harder. They position smarter, using systems, people, capital, and technology to multiply results while minimizing effort. Which is why one decision made in the right room can outweigh years of physical labor. Yet society continues to glorify struggle because struggle keeps people busy and distracted from questioning the system. This leads to another hidden luxury, emotional detachment. Because the elite are trained to separate feelings from decisions, understanding that emotions are expensive and impulsive choices are the fastest way to lose power. While poor people are emotionally manipulated through fear, hope, and urgency, making them predictable, reactive, and easy to control. The most dangerous luxury fact of all is that the rich don't chase money, they position themselves where money is forced to come to them, through ownership, equity, and control of distribution, while most people are taught to chase salaries, promotions, and approval, never realizing that chasing keeps you running in circles while positioning keeps you standing still as everything flows toward you. And this is only the surface, because what you're about to hear next will completely change how you see wealth, status, and success. And once this knowledge settles in, you'll understand why some people were never meant to escape poverty, not because they lack effort, but because they were never taught the rules of the game in the first place. The next layer of secret luxury facts is where most people start to feel uncomfortable, because this is where the illusion of fairness completely breaks, and you begin to see that the world was never designed for everyone to win, only for a few to control the direction of everyone else. And the biggest luxury the rich protect is distance from chaos. Because chaos is expensive, loud, emotional, and contagious, and poor people are forced to live inside it every single day, surrounded by noise, conflict, urgency, and survival pressure that slowly kills long-term thinking. Rich people pay massive amounts of money to live far away from instability, not just physical distance, but mental distance. Which is why their neighborhoods are quiet, their calendars are controlled, and their lives appear boring to outsiders, because boredom is actually peace. And peace is the foundation of intelligent decision-making, while constant excitement keeps people distracted and reactive. Another hidden luxury fact is that rich people understand debt very differently than the poor. Because poor people use debt to survive and impress, while the rich use debt as a tool to expand control, acquire assets, and shift risk away from themselves. Which is why the same financial instrument that traps one group becomes a weapon for the other. And the difference is not intelligence, but education and positioning. This is why luxury brands happily sell status symbols to the masses. Because it keeps people chasing appearances instead of ownership, while the elite quietly accumulate equity, land, businesses, and influence that don't need logos to prove their value. The next secret is that rich people are extremely selective with their energy. Because energy is finite and once wasted, it never returns, which is why they avoid arguments, unnecessary meetings, pointless debates, and emotionally draining people. Understanding that winning an argument is far less valuable than preserving focus, while poor people are constantly pulled into drama, comparison, and emotional battles that produce no real outcome but consume massive mental resources. This leads to another luxury truth: rich people do not try to be liked. Because approval is a weak currency and the need for validation makes people manipulable, predictable, and easy to control, which is why the elite are comfortable being misunderstood, criticized, or even hated, as long as their position remains strong. While poor people are trained to seek acceptance, likes, and praise, even if it costs them their independence. One of the darkest luxury facts is that rich people understand human behavior deeply, not out of curiosity, but out of necessity. Because control requires prediction, and prediction requires understanding patterns, which is why marketing, psychology, and data are far more valuable to them than motivation or inspiration. And this is why poor people are constantly sold dreams, shortcuts, and hope. Because hope is cheap and keeps people passive, waiting for change instead of positioning for it. Another uncomfortable truth is that rich people build layers of protection around themselves, legal, financial, and social, so that one mistake doesn't destroy everything, while poor people live exposed where a single emergency can collapse their entire life. And this constant vulnerability forces short-term thinking, risk avoidance, and fear-based decisions that prevent upward movement. This is why luxury is not about excess, but about insulation from risk, stress, and unpredictability. And once you see this, you realize that most luxury purchases are not emotional, they are defensive, designed to reduce friction and increase stability over decades, not moments. The elite also understand that visibility is a liability, which is why true power often operates quietly, behind layers of companies, trusts, and intermediaries, while poor people are encouraged to overshare, build personal brands without leverage, and expose their lives for temporary attention, not realizing that visibility without power invites exploitation, judgment, and pressure. One of the most powerful luxury facts is that rich people think in decades, not weeks or months, because time horizon determines strategy. And when you're not worried about survival, you can afford patience. While most people are trapped in short cycles of bills, deadlines, and immediate needs that make long-term planning feel impossible, which is exactly how the system maintains balance, by keeping most people too busy surviving to question direction. This leads to the realization that luxury is not consumption, it's optionality. The ability to say no, to walk away, to wait, to choose, and this option to choose is the rarest luxury on earth, because without it, every decision is forced, rushed, and reactive. And once you understand this, you begin to see why motivation alone never changes outcomes, why hard work without leverage leads to exhaustion, and why most people remain stuck not because they lack effort, but because they are operating inside a structure that rewards obedience over ownership. And what comes next will expose the final layer of luxury that separates those who watch from those who control. The final layer of secret luxury facts is the one almost nobody talks about openly, because once you see it clearly, you can never unsee it again. And it explains why wealth keeps circulating among the same families, groups, and networks while millions of people work their entire lives and still feel like they're standing in the same place. And that final luxury is control over narrative. Because whoever controls the story controls behavior, belief, and direction. And rich people understand this at a deep level, which is why they invest in media, platforms, education systems, and branding not for attention but to shape perception, while poor people consume narratives created by others and mistake them for truth. This is why society glorifies hustle but rarely explains ownership. Why working hard is praised but working smart is mocked, and why most people are taught to admire wealth from a distance instead of understanding how it's actually built and protected. Because admiration creates spectators, not competitors. Another hidden luxury fact is that rich people outsource pain while poor people internalize it. Meaning the elite design systems where discomfort is absorbed by processes, contracts, and people, while poor individuals carry stress physically and emotionally, leading to burnout, poor health, and limited thinking capacity, which then gets blamed on lack of discipline instead of structural disadvantage. This is why luxury healthcare, nutrition, and recovery are not indulgences but strategic investments. Because a clear mind and strong body increase decision quality, and decision quality compounds faster than effort ever will. The elite also understand that loyalty is transactional, not emotional, which is why they build relationships based on aligned incentives rather than feelings. While poor people are taught to be loyal to jobs, companies, and systems that have no loyalty to them, creating a one-sided relationship that benefits power structures and traps individuals in dependency. One of the most brutal luxury truths is that rich people accept reality as it is, not as it should be, and this emotional maturity allows them to adapt quickly, cut losses, and move forward without guilt or attachment, while poor people are often trapped by fairness, hope, and nostalgia, waiting for systems or people to change instead of repositioning themselves within reality. This leads to another uncomfortable fact. Rich people are not optimistic. They are strategic, and optimism without strategy is just a coping mechanism that keeps people calm while nothing changes. The elite also understand that competition is a trap for those without leverage, which is why they avoid crowded markets, saturated paths, and obvious opportunities, preferring quiet niches, boring industries, and unglamorous businesses that produce consistent cash flow and control. While the masses rush toward whatever looks exciting, popular, or trending, only to discover that by the time something is visible, the advantage is already gone. Another luxury the rich fiercely protect is anonymity and failure. Because learning requires mistakes, and mistakes are expensive when they're public, which is why the elite experiment quietly, test ideas in private, and scale only what works, while poor people are encouraged to perform progress publicly, announcing goals, sharing struggles, and exposing failures, which adds pressure, shame, and fear that slows learning and reinforces self-doubt. The final and most dangerous luxury fact is that rich people don't see themselves as workers inside the system, but as architects around it, designing structures that benefit from human behavior instead of fighting it. While most people are trained to fit into existing systems, follow instructions, and measure success through external validation like salaries, titles, and applause. This is why true wealth feels unreachable to so many, because they're trying to climb ladders that were never meant to lead to control, only comfort at best and exhaustion at worst. Once you understand these secret luxury facts, the illusion of success changes forever, because you realize that money is not the goal, it's a side effect of positioning, leverage, patience, and narrative control. And the real divide between rich and poor is not effort or intelligence, but awareness, environment, and access to the rules of the game. And the most uncomfortable truth of all is this: the system doesn't need everyone to be rich. It needs most people to believe that working harder inside the same structure will eventually save them, while a small group quietly designs the structure itself. And now that you know this, the question is no longer whether the world is fair, but whether you will continue to play as a pawn, or start thinking like someone who understands why luxury was never about money in the first place.